Okay. Hello, my name is Jose. I'm going to be talking about the impact and ethics of deepfake technology. So, starting off, what are deepfakes, right? Deepfakes are basically hyper-realistic AI-generated media that include images, videos, audios, but they're pretty much fake, right? So, in one of the sources I was reading, there's basically no single universal definition to what deepfakes are, and I guess this lack of clarity does make it present challenges for regulation and detection, right? So as the technology continues to grow and it continues to evolve, it expands past industries like education or entertainment and moves into industries like education, commits to political misinformation and just misinformation in general, and identity theft, right? Deepfakes do amplify existing problems like privacy invasion, misinformation, not and non-consensual content, right? So in this presentation, we'll go over five topics: the potential benefits, risks, ethical considerations, the digital divide such as generational gaps, and global implications. So moving on with potential benefits innovations, right? So it can be used in the entertainment industry, right? It's cheaper, more cost effective, and can be used as a replacement for traditional CGI to create realistic and visual effects. And similarly, it can be used in the advertising industry and even the entertainment industry for things like makeup, hairstyles, and more. It also has potential for usage in the education industry, for example, in simulated training environments like medical simulations for procedures. And it even can be used for potential usage in school for different styles of learning or even personalized learning on your own. An example I thought of was, an example I saw was Tim Moby from BrainPop, right? Tim and Moby from BrainPop basically platform where they teach typically students, I think, I don't know if it was K through 12 or K through 8, and they just have these two characters and they teach about the lessons in a simple manner and a way to understand, easy way to understand depending on, I guess, their grade level or for those grade levels, right? I am sure it can be used in a similar manner, right? You can make teachers can make a different a style of learning, or even students on their own can make personalized learning videos for them, maybe to study for tests or understand the content better. Maybe someone could create like a app where they drop a PDF and it creates a type of video like that. You can even I'm sure there's so many things that I just think on top of my head that you can do with that. And lastly, the use in social media. You can probably use social media for filters like age filters, make you look older, younger, makeup, and more. So moving on from benefits, we'll talk about risk. Just like many things have benefits, and of course, things come with risks, right? So first thing we'll talk about is the spread of fake news, right? Example can be there was a falsified Pentagon explosion. That was deep fake according to one of my sources, and this caused confusion online and basically just led many people to worry. And some people didn't know this was deep fake. This was fake. A lot of people believed it. And of course, we can talk about manipulation of markets. I just put this example. The example I had wasn't typically exactly a deepfake, but it can show how fake media can cause can have real world effects to the economy and people in general. So there was a false, Trump recently came out with tariffs, a pause in tariffs that he proposed. And before that, there was false news that he paused tariffs. So what did this do? This caused the stock market to pump up. And when the news came out that was false, it came back down, maybe even farther than where it was before, right? And this just shows how fake news can have real world effects, right? Then you have fraud impersonation. People can use deepfake to impersonate. I've seen that people have gotten scam calls before of an audio of someone they cared, and it sounded just like this person that they cared or loved for. And I'm sure deepfake could have been used to create this, right? People can call people using an audio of someone, and it sounds very realistic, especially as this advances. You can even look at examples online. For example, people have been posting recently a lot about Reddit stories. And in these Reddit stories, there's audios, either a typical, like I guess, AI audio that they have, or you can maybe even use audios of someone's voice to create fake videos and fake audios using this, impersonating people. Lastly, we could talk about porn, the use of porn, right? And I believe it was 2019. There was a study done by I believe it was Deep Trace, they were called. If I'm not mistaken, they were a Netherlands cybersecurity company. And in this study, they found that in 2019, that about 14,000 of images and videos were created using deepfakes. And of these videos, 96% of them were pornographic in nature, right? Then again, another study done in 2023 where the number rose to about 54 or 56,000, and the percentage increased from 96 to 98% of these videos being pornographic. So tools. There's tools like Face App and Deepface Lab that make deepfakes more accessible, and anyone with a decent setup can make and create their and even post their own deepfakes, right? So as accessibility increases, the potential for harm and manipulation also increases along, right? So that's about it for risk. Moving on, we'll have the ethical considerations. So there's the spread of non-consensual content, right? There's difficulty holding people accountable, like creators, for example, the person who created the deepfake and spread it, and might have spread super fast due to the social media or the internet. And it becomes an issue trying to figure out who are we going to hold accountable, right? Should we hold the creators accountable? Should we hold the one who spread the account? Should we hold the developers who created the application that they used to make the deepfake? Should we hold the stakeholders and the company that made the deepfake? It becomes difficult to kind of like figure out, okay, who should we hold accountable? And then of course there's misinformation um from news, social media, right? It also can lead to, I guess you could say, like an erosion of trust in media and video content in general, and also just leave people with false information and false evidence that they might believe without fact checking, without knowing that it is actually a deepfake or it is false, right? There's also a lack of consistency in how countries regulate deepfake content. And lastly, I wanted to, I guess, consider these from two ethical viewpoints. I want to talk about the deontological perspective and the utilitarianist perspective. So I guess from a deontological perspective, right, we basically kind of have like the duty to protect rights, right? Or duty to protect rights. And an example I think is basically vulnerable groups or people without digital literacy or the access to training or technology in general, basically will be more susceptible and won't be able to, I guess, examine or identify these deepfakes properly, which lead to a misinformed, I guess, society or group of people, which basically, from a deontological perspective, fails in its teachings, right? And then lastly, I want to talk about the utilitarian perspective and if the overall harm outweighs its benefits. For example, the risk that we talked about in the previous slide, and then the benefits that we talked about in one of the first slides. I guess we would have to just decide, people would have to look at both, for example, weighing both of them on a scale, which one is worse, or the risk worse, or the benefits better, which should we consider, and figuring out how to make regulations, how we should approach technology, if the technology should be allowed, and so on, right? So moving from the ethical considerations, we have the digital divide and then generational gaps. I did see a report about how K through 12 students were the most vulnerable group to, I guess, falling for scientific deepfakes, right? And it also said that higher education students perform slightly better, suggesting that age, but it also suggests that age, I guess, doesn't guarantee resistance, but education, exposure, and training can help better effectively identify deepfakes, right? Another study found that higher income and younger individuals are more likely to detect deepfakes and question their credibility. All right. Further suggesting that education, exposure, and training can better help people better identify deepfakes. Moving on, we have the global implications, right? So deepfakes can be used to destabilize diplomatic relations, personate leaders, and fabricate war-related media, right? So China, the US, South Korea, India, and sorry, Italy are leading countries in research for deepfake detection. I saw in a resource in one of the sources that I was reading that there was an example of President Zelensky of Ukraine, where he basically there was a fake video that came out and it went on Ukrainian news about the war. I'm assuming about the war effort against Russia. And in this, he basically, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I'm pretty sure it was some type of good news. And a later count was false. So imagine being like a citizen in during that time of war or a soldier and hearing this good news, and you might have felt like a sign of a sigh, like a sign of release, or like, yes, like this is good news finally, or something like that, just to find out a few hours or a few minutes later that it was fake news, right? Then we have President Bongo of Gabon. He basically came out with a video talking about his health. And a lot of citizens, I saw that citizens didn't believe him, or they thought it was like a deep fake or it was fake video somehow whatnot. And this led to unrest between the citizens because, they felt their government was lying to us. And it actually led to a coup, right? Showing how fake media can have real world effects, like I said above, right? And of course, limited digital literacy and access to fact-checking tools in different regions and countries can also affect how people respond to situations, the type of rules that come up, and so on, right? And that was basically my presentation, right? So thank you for listening. Um, and basically to conclude, right? deepfakes do have a huge, I guess you could say, creative potential, but they also include major risks, right? So digital literacy, strong ethical responsibility, and international cooperation are necessary to make deepfakes, I guess, a better tool and a more effective tool to use properly. So as deepfakes do get better and it becomes harder to tell real from fake, I guess the responsibility falls on us, creators of technology, the government, and the public to decide how we should approach deepfakes, the type of regulations we should have, and so on, right? This was basically it. So thank you for my presentation, and these are my references. I had about 5 references, and yeah, thank you for listening.